Government's targeted marketing and promotional campaigns through participation in international trade fairs, exhibitions, and islands and nature reserves and habitats.
So when I say the glass is half full, I want us to celebrate the great success we have had in just 2 short years. There is no gainsaying that the global COVID-19 pandemic has led to greater uncertainty for the sector. With temporary bans and restrictions on international commercial travel, tourist visitor flows have ebbed considerably, as you must have noticed.
He told the gathering that development partners have strengthened their relationship with the sector and have included the sector in their development plans, and have also lauded the policy initiatives to ease the burden of travel to Sierra Leone, such as the elimination of GST on airfare and the implementation of the visa on arrival.
There are new opportunities in domestic tourism. Sierra Leoneans and neighbors can know, enjoy, and love more about the rich and vibrant beauty that our country offers. A diversified market with diversified products and services can only be good for our economy and for inclusive and sustainable development. Indeed, the cup is half full, and by our action, we will make it full and make tourism and hospitality contribute immensely to our economy. With these remarks, I now formally launch this social safety network period support, and I thank you all for your audience.
Minister of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, Dr. Maimuna Tupurat, highlighted that the world has been devastated by the impacts of the coronavirus, and globally it is evident that the tourism and hospitality sectors have been the worst hit, with grounding of flights, closure of hotels and tourism facilities, high job losses, and a significant decrease in national revenues contributed by the tourism and hospitality sectors. In spite of the negative impact caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, she noted the tourism sector being the hardest hit, and the president has taken a significant step to support the tourism sector with a social safety net program to get through these extremely tough times.
We are also continuing with the necessary planning to ensure that our tourism industry can recover as quickly as possible and continue to be a major contributor in revenue generation and job creation. And for this, I must also again pay tribute to the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Finance for the time and effort in trying to ensure that tourism remains on track. His Excellency the President again is revamping this sector, cares about the livelihoods of people, because we live in a situation where we have high levels of poverty. And the fact that we are just coming in just about 2 years, it's time that such a venture should be able to alleviate the level of poverty, especially those affecting members and families that align themselves to the tourism sector.
The Minister of Finance, Jacob Jusuf Safar, highlighted that the President has proposed a full agenda with regards to human capital development in terms of changing the lives of citizens directly, which include education, health, agriculture, and social protection. The Ministry of Finance, he stated, has collaborated with different agencies to support safety net programs as part of the social protection agenda. One such safety net is the school buses. John Shalop is the president of hotels, restaurants, bars and casinos. He expressed thanks and appreciation to the president and the government for such gesture.
To be very honest, I've never felt more proud in my life of our president, and for the mere fact that he came to this tourism sector and he loved the passion and love he has for the tourism. The passion and love he has for the tourism sector is wonderful. And he really looked down upon his people, the ones that are suffering the most in this sector. And he reached out and made sure that he provided every single help he has for them. I'm very, very happy. It's a very joyful moment, And to be honest, we worked very hard, all of us, with the Ministry of Tourism, the National Tourist Board, and fellow colleagues in the association.
The check to the tourism and hospitality sector was presented by President Julius Maada during the launching ceremony. Slbc TV News are in Freetown. How must we reporting?
A witness who is a friend of the late Khadija's mother has said that the 5-year-old girl was already unconscious when she held her in her arms on the 17th June, the day Khadija was reported dead. Slbc said this when giving evidence at the Pademba Road Magistrate Court No. 2 before Magistrate Mark Geba as prosecution witness 4. Amina Shnandebrana reports.
Maria Mastajo Bari and her son Ibrahim Ba have made their 4th appearance before the court on 2-count charge of conspiracy to commit murder and murder. The state alleged that both accused allegedly murdered 5-year-old Khadija Madina to Sako at their 25 Spur Road residence, Freetown, on Wednesday, 17th June 2020. Prosecution witness 3, Agnes Jajua, a co-tenant to both accused, testified that she was in her apartment when the first accused, Maria Mastajo Bari, requested for her presence, and upon arrival, she saw the first accused lying on the floor beside the deceased, Khadija Madina to Sako. And Maria Mastajo Bari told her that she was sick and she told her to buy blood syrup, which she did by sending the second accused, Ibrahim Ba, to purchase, and then she went back to her apartment. Agnes continued that Maria Mastajo Bari called her again, and this time she told her that Khadija has turned her eyes. Upon arrival, she saw Mariama carrying Khadija on her back. She then advised Mariama to take Khadija to the hospital for medical treatment. Agnes Jajua also said 5-year-old Khadija was pronounced dead by a medical doctor at the Choitram Hospital on Wednesday, 17th June this year. The 4th witness, Slbc, said she had always been speaking on the phone to Khadija's mother, Binta, and that it was on the day of the incident she knew that Khadija was sick after Binta had called her on the phone and told her that the deceased was suffering from cold and begged her to check on Khadija. Slbc further said when she and Maria Mastajo Bari took Khadija to the Iranian hospital at Lumley, the doctor did not medically check her to know what was wrong with her, but only checked her temperature and referred them to the Connaught Hospital. But due to the time, Maria Mastajo Bari, first accused, advised that they go to the Choitram Hospital where they discovered Khadija Madina to Sako had died. During cross-examination by defense counsels, Agnes Jajua said the first accused, Maria Mastajo Bari, who was a trader, sometimes leaves Khadija in her care whenever she goes out to do her business. Maria Mastajo Bari and her son Ibrahim Ba have been remanded and the matter adjourned to Thursday, 20th August this year. Lawyer Joseph Andrew Kelly Sise is the state prosecutor in the matter, while lawyer Alhaji Mustafa Kamara is representing the first accused, Maria Mastajo Bari, and lawyer Emmanuel Teddy Koroma defending the second accused, Ibrahim Ba. SLBC News, Amina Shnyande Ibrahima.
BBC Media Action has informed the Minister of Information and Communications about the British High Commission's support to independent media for democratic governance in Sierra Leone. The project, which is funded by FCDO under its democratic portfolio, is to protect independent media for the effective development project. For more on this, let's join Aruna Punakama.
The update session was witnessed by members of the Independent Media Commission, SLAJ, and other media-related bodies for them to understand the project. The project, according to the BBC Media Action country representative, is aimed at supporting the development of trusted, inclusive, and independent media programming. He said the project is expected to commence in October this year and ends in September 2023, with delivery partners BBC Media Action, Article 19 and MDIF. Reiterated that the project will target 3 countries, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, and Sierra Leone.
part of the problems we identify is most journalists are not paid, they don't receive salaries, but we want to capacitate the IMC to be able to get that engagement continuously, whether with the ministry or with the IMC, with other media actors across the board, to improve standards, to ensure journalists' rights are protected across the board. But we will also support media outlets. Journalists, the standard of training is limited, which is why if you see learning institutions, principally by the Department of Mass Communication at Fabric College, to support training within the university, but also to work with media outlets like radio stations, provide capacity for them so that they will provide good content that reflects the needs of society.
The 3-year project, he went on, will reform and empower the role of the IMC to meet international standards and best practice, support SLAG and other advocacy groups to advocate for journalist rights, improve industry standards and practice, and support media outlets and learning institutions to build their ability in creating quality public and media interest. The Minister of Information and Communications, Mohamed Rahman Soare, said they were committed to a free and just media. The minister pointed out the issue of sustainability of the project and recommends partnership between local and foreign consultants.
We want this to be a model for other countries around here. We want to live by palpable footprints of your intervention, so that all of it does not end up workshops. You know, this country have had too much workshops there. You know, so just those issues, so that we can cheer on them. Yeah.
The minister noted that they are pleased to be part of the media change in the country and pledged his ministry's commitment to the success of the project. SLAG representatives and other media bodies commended the intervention of the project and called for the finalization of the information and media policy. They said their focus was to look ahead after the repeal of the libel law and to take advantage of the media freedom in reforming a responsibly and professional media. The chairman of the Independent Media Commission, George Koyama, said since they took over, training, consultation and other functions that were to be undertaken by the commission were not met, adding that with this project, they are now sure of undertaking full commitment of those functions. The project is expected to promote free and pluralistic media, promote fair competition, protect against exploitation by the media, universal access to coverage and undertake media research. Aruna Punakama, News Hour.
President of Sierra Leone Association of Local Councils has called on the central government to give authority to local councils in the country. Joseph Munda Bindi said devolution of powers to local authorities would be meaningless if they are devoid of functions, personnel and money to perform their functions. He was speaking during a stakeholders engagement to commemorate this year's African Day of Decentralization and Local Development in Sierra Leone at the Jala venue in Aberdeen, Freetown. Sori Ibrahim Kama reports.
This African Day of Decentralization, which usually comes on August 10th every year, is an event meant to discuss the challenges African countries face in the implementation of decentralization and local development policies. President of Local Councils Association of Sierra Leone, Joseph Munda Bindi, told his audience that this year's commemoration comes amidst numerous challenges facing local councils. Joseph Bindi said local councils generally continue to go underfunded and have no power to determine their development. He emphasized that the day was an awakening call for action towards the cause of a meaningful decentralization process, whilst re-echoing the theme for this year's celebration, which is the contribution of local authorities to conflict prevention and peacekeeping in Africa. Mr. Bindi noted that local authorities play a key role in conflict prevention and peacekeeping in Africa. Building a lasting peace in Africa, he said, takes into account the recognition of local authorities as not only actors of development, but actors of peace in their own right.
Our objective here, as I said, is to localize the dreams of Africa to Sierra Leone. That we want to ensure we all contribute to conflict prevention and promoting peace in every community in our country, Sierra Leone.
The commemoration drew the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Mayor of Freetown, Chairman of Parliamentary Oversight on Local Government, and Inspector General of Police, representatives from local councils, Office of National Security, and civil society organizations, among others. Chairperson of the Tonkolili District Council, Yabum Sise, called for inter-ministerial coordination in the local government. She appealed to all political parties to divorce politics from the activities of local councils. She urged ministries to delegate functions to local councils as provided by the Local Government Act of 2004. Inspector General of Police Ambrose Sovula said the Sierra Leone Police was playing a major role in conflict prevention and peacekeeping in Sierra Leone. The Inspector General of Police told his audience that the interface between the police and local authorities has created a platform for peace.
We established what we refer to as local policing partnership in resolving conflict. In fact, people call it community policing, but we, the police in Sierra Leone, we tailored it and call it local needs policing. We call it local needs policing because the policing style in resolving conflicts in Makeni is quite different from that in Pujan. The culture and traditions are not the same, so we are able to design that type of policing and decentralize it to various policing divisions. I think we'll be able to decentralize better than any other institution in Sierra Leone. Anyone can prove me right or wrong.
While closing the session, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Tambalamina informed his audience that government's commitment to local councils was producing results day by day and that local councils were alive and continue to play their role. Mr. Lamina said a lot has been achieved and more also needs to be achieved.
The more that is given, the more we want. But some of the issues that have been mentioned here today are far overdue as far as devolution of functions is concerned. You must be very much aware, as some of the speakers have spoken here today, that there are a range of issues that are currently ongoing as far as local governance is concerned. Amongst them, critical to that is the policy framework, which is now nearing completion. And as I speak today here, we know that a group of technicians will be going on a retreat over the weekend to look at some of the submissions that have been presented to be included in the policy before it's ready for submission to His Excellency.
This African Day of Decentralization and Local Development is in accordance with the African Charter of Values and Principles of Decentralization and Local Governance and Local Development. And the theme for this year is in tune with the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, which proposed for a continent free of all forms of conflicts.
Since the start of the month, some contingents of police officers and Slbc Road Corps have been deployed along the main central business districts across the city to monitor bike riders who default the traffic rules and regulations. Most of the bike riders have been arrested for minor offences such as failing to register their bike to the Slbc, overloading and riding without license, among others. In minimizing the minor traffic offences, the Center for Accountability and Rule of Law, CAL, has engaged Sierra Leone Road Safety Authority in finding possible ways to ensure motorbike riders are not sent to prison for minor offences. Jonathan Turner reports.
For the failure to register their bikes to the Sierra Leone Road Safety Authority using wrong license number plates, overloading, riding without license, and using the central business district, amongst others. Bike riders are most times found to be guilty of the aforementioned offences, but many of them who have gotten arrested and charged for what are known as quality of life crimes simply do not believe that the law is serving its purpose. CAL project coordinator Fadumbe and Sumana said 90% of these riders are working for their paymasters, noting that sending them to prison and confiscating their bikes will increase the poverty rate in the country. He added that a warning of grace period should be issued before bike riders or other petty crime offenders are charged, because the ones who get caught in the criminal web for those classes of offenses are either the working class or poor people who are basically being unfairly targeted.
Find a way forward that to minimize the punishment for bike riders on petty offenses, and not only bike riders, but even other drivers. Because those minor offenses, according to the African Union, we are informed that all state parties are obliged to bring up regulations to minimize those punishments. Because according to them, and in our research also, it indicates that it increases poverty. Much as government is making tremendous efforts to alleviate poverty, but those traffic offenses are also contributing to poverty.
Bike Riders Association National Chair Lady Nelly Conte said police have said that the move is an attempt to get a handle on a wave of accidents and traffic in central business districts in the recent weeks. She, however, noted that these precautionaries are for petty offenses and that they are being unfairly targeted by police who do not exercise any discretion in their performance of their duties. Nevertheless, Sierra Leone Police Head of Traffic Investigations, Daniel Bokari, insisted that the department needs to show the public that they are serious about upholding the law by trying to fix the big problems, starting with the small and often looked offenses. He said these are crimes that are in our laws and need to be enforced. He noted that these are petty offenses that have been overlooked for quite some time, stressing that they have been trying different approaches to combat this and end all forms of crime in the country. Sierra Leone Road Safety Authority Executive Director Ibrahim Sano said over 40% of bikes are not registered with their corporation. He stressed that to salvage shared behavior by the riders, there must be additional road sign posts across the country and ethics training for the riders.
That part of the advocacy has to be complemented with sensitization and education. So we can partner with the Ministry of Youth, partner with the police and us and CARL, OCO, wherever is supporting them to embark on the sensitization training. They equally don't have licenses. You can also help them get licenses. And that's very correct, because most of those people can just learn to ride overnight. And by the time they set the brakes, they start riding bike. As long as they can hop on the bike, rev the engine and go, that's it. So we really have to see how we can build consensus. So firstly, try to educate them on the road signs, road ethics.
The Center for Accountability and Rule of Law, CAL, is an independent non-profit organization that seeks to promote a just society for all in Sierra Leone through monitoring institutions of accountability, outreach and advocacy for institution transparency, capacity building, and the empowerment of citizens. For SLBC News, Jonathan Turner reporting.
A non-governmental organization helping individuals with special needs have embarked on COVID-19 sensitization to disabled and the aged. The sensitization coincided with the donation of assistive devices and education of pupils on the way they should protect and respect the rights of mentally disabled persons. Emmanuel Alfred Samura followed the process and sent in this report.
Mentally disabled and physically challenged persons hardly follow preventive protocols which leave them at the mercy of the coronavirus pandemic. They can only survive with virus when society sees and accept them as fellow humans, which this organization is advocating for.
It is actually something of a challenge in this country. Like other parts of the world, we can see that they have provisions for mentally challenged people. But in this part of the world, which is Sierra Leone, our country, we are having challenges. People with mental health issues are most of the time discriminated. Most of the time they are isolated, they are being stoned at, they are being provoked.
Because of their vulnerability, their survival completely depends on the goodwill of members of the society, especially in these trying times.
Since the outbreak of the pandemic, we have received a series of gifts from people, but yours have made a difference. This assistive device, which aid our movement, is very expensive that we cannot even afford one. Encouragement, kindness, love, respect for the lives of people with special needs are some of the things these kids said they never had.
As from today, I've learned my lesson to take care of them, help them when they are in need.
Helping Individuals with Special Needs is an organization advocating for the rights and welfare of people living with mental disabilities.
Former Director General of the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation, Dr. Ivan Ajibola Thomas, has passed away. Before his appointment as Director General, he had worked for the then Sierra Leone Broadcasting Service for many years before proceeding to Frabe College to further his education. On completion of his course, he worked for the Anti-Corruption Commission, where he came to be head of the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation until 2015, when he left for the attitudinal and behavioral change. He was a lecturer at the Frabe College, University of Sierra Leone. Let's now hear from a cross-section of the SLBC staff that worked with the late Dr. Ivan Ajibola Thomas as they eulogize him.
Ivan was an excellent lecturer. He taught me development communications at Frabe College, Mass Communications Department. And about that time, he was also the Director General of the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. And in fact, he encouraged us to do our internship at the SLBS. He said, Alimani, you know what? You're going to make an excellent producer. And I also noticed you can write well. He inspired me. I mean, he's an excellent man. He would always smile. You hardly see him sad. I'm not sure I have ever seen him. Ivan was a great man. His leadership at the SLBC was excellent. He inspired us, the young people at the SLBS. It was Ivan who started the branding of the SLBS. He injected spirit, color to television viewing and motivated us to go look for those materials that could add color to the SLBC.
When I heard about Dr. Ivan Ajibola's demise, it was really shocking for me. I worked with him here during the SLBS days. He was one person who likes his job. He was a creative personality. He likes to create good things. Like, for example, the latest program I can vividly remember which he created was Waves. He called me and said, Haja, I want you to do this program together with Dan Moss. I want you to do it the same way you were doing Howdy Goody Go. But I told him, because it was a night program, and by then I didn't have a car. It would be very difficult for me to go home because I stay at the east end of Freetown. I want to send a condolence to the family, especially to the father. I worked with the father too here. He was the head of programs, television, and later on the head of television. That was the position he retired as, Reverend Cyril Thomas. He was a strict man, but he was a professional as well.
Dr. Ivan Ajibola Thomas is a man who was forthright in what he was doing, and he made a lot of changes here at the SLBC, both material-wise and spiritually. He encouraged us all to do the work we are doing. He was a journalist right through. He came here, I think, when he left secondary school, so he was just exceptional until he went again to do his masters and things like that. And I was discussing with him. He used to encourage me a lot about the academic side of it all. So it will be missed, and we are sad that he's gone. He's one of those people that bring out the man in the man. He will encourage you. He will put out the best just for you to succeed in what you're doing.
That was a cross-section of SLBC staff that worked with Dr. Ivan Ajibola Thomas. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Now, in observance of this year's International Youth Day, youths and stakeholders of Slbc in Freetown have been engaged by the National Youth Council, which collaborated with other youth organizations on peace building. As Emmanuel Alfred Samuel reports, the theme for this 2020 International Youth Day is Youth Engagement for Global Action.
This community engagement was driven by one of the pillars of this year's International Youth Day, which is local engagement. Slbc was targeted due to the high crime rate reported over the years. But what could be the reason for the involvement of youths in this community in such acts?
Selfish interest.
The violence here is caused mainly by the selfish desires of some people and the segregation of others from benefiting from opportunities of the wider community.
If I not deserve to what's the
this month I don't land me job, I don't want job again.
Myself and several other young people are skilled in various vocations, but with no job.
It is such idleness that caused an increase in violence and other crimes here, and that resulted to the establishment of a police post in the community. The police now report a reduction in crime rates.
Post-commander expected to see crime rates have drastically. So the crime rates have reduced drastically.
Head of Community Relations Department of the Sierra Leone Police, Assistant Superintendent Hawa Momo, educated parents that threatening their children with the police is one of the reasons the youth see the police as their enemies and not partners. Tribal headman of the community, Chief Alhaji Almami Kama II, boastfully supported claims by the police about the reduction in cases of violence in the area due to such constant community engagements. Chairman of the National Youth Council, Tijan Keller, educated the youths on more decent ways to register their grievances than violence.
Presenting our case to the Ministry of Youth Affairs on this day, on what came out when we did our engagement. Some of the reasons, or some of the things that came out clearly from the youth or the young people was unemployment rate. That if they've been engaged, there will be no need for them to jump into the streets to fight for people. But that has not been the reality. So now we are acting. We are asking the government of this country to see reasons to create more job opportunities for young people. We are actually asking that more recreational centers, that has been our demand all along. Textbook institutions will be coming up.
Tijan said they will continue to engage these community youths on peace until violence and other crimes in Susan's Bay community becomes a thing of the past. A two-day training for Attaya Base and Ghetto youths has been held at the Harry Ansane Hall on Campbell Street in Freetown. Organized by the West African Youth Network, the exercise was to complement government's efforts in promoting peace and youth participation in all aspects of development. Hawana Tukonte reports.
The training was to create positive and constructive dialogue that will give the much result and enable youths of Attaya bases and ghettos deceased from the acts of violence they are usually accused of perpetrating. This training was to pass on messages that will cement the gap between the governed and the governors, especially young people at Attaya bases and ghettos who hold the belief of being marginalized. West African Youth Network wants to change the narrative, perspective, and ideology the society placed that people in Attaya Base and ghettos are not serious and are the main route and conduits to violent activities. Participants discussed conflict analysis and mediation among several other issues. According to them, the training has helped their obedience and respect, engagement in development activities, collaboration with stakeholders, bridge communication gap, and peaceful coexistence. Executive Assistant of West African Youth Network, Raymond Beckley, said the move is a response to the call of President Bio on the involvement of civil society organizations in the promotion of peace in the country. These sets of youths, he said, were targeted mainly because they are often seen as perpetrators of violence.
These are the people politicians usually meet. These are the people, big people usually meet to perpetrate violence because they have that kind of a stereotype that people at the ghetto and they are at our base, they don't have focus. If we're able to give them money, they'll do anything.
Peace, Mr. Beckley went on, is of paramount to the development of a nation, noting that if a country is threatened by violence and conflicts, it will lead to anarchy. The West African Youth Network is a youth-led organization formed in 2001 to serve as an incubating center for young people to actualize their dreams and God's given talents. Planning officer of the network, Ansumana Keita, said that over the past years, they have been engaging school-going pupils and university students, but took a U-turn to engaging Attaya Base and ghetto youths due to their pivotal roles in national development. These young people who have been selected from the east and west of Freetown will now serve as ambassadors in their various localities.
You're still watching News Live from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. It's now time for news around the African continent. A leading member of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood movement has died in prison after suffering a heart attack, media report says. Islam al-Iran, 66, was arrested in 2013 following the overthrow of Mohammed Morsi's government by the military. He was serving several life sentences at the Torah prison in southern Cairo when he died, the report says. There has been no official announcement of his death, but it was reported by both government and pro-Brotherhood websites. Police in Ivory Coast have fired tear gas at opposition supporters protesting against President Alassane Ouattara's decision to run for a third term in office. Demonstrators defied a ban on protests, erecting barricades and burning tires in the commercial capital Abidjan and elsewhere. At least 2 people are reported to have been killed during clashes on Wednesday between the opposition and supporters of the governing party. Mr. Ouattara has decided to run again for his after his third nominated successor, Prime Minister Amadou Coulibaly, died unexpectedly last month. A 19-year-old Ugandan has picked nomination papers to vie for the presidency in the upcoming general elections. Hilary Kawesa said that he had always been a leader and was qualified to lead the country. He said he would fundraise the 20 million Ugandan shillings nomination fees. Mr. Kasiwa is also required to collect 100 signatures in every district for his nomination. The country has more than 100 districts. The constitution allows any Ugandan citizen who is above 18 years to vie for the presidency. Well, it's now time for some sports news.
Hello and welcome to Sports Updates on News Hour. I am Abdul Kabir. In today's edition, we turn the spotlight on Sierra Leone's newest sensation in football, Mustapha Bundu. The steady rise of former Craig Bellamy Academy product, Mustapha Bundu, is on the lips of many as a result of a lucrative contract he signed with a Belgian side, ISC Anderlecht, recently. This has prompted the Sport Desk to look back at the humble beginnings of Mustapha Bundu. The Sports Desk puts this report together. Football is a game to be enjoyed over the course of 90 minutes. But for many youngsters in Sierra Leone, the sport means so much more. As a young boy back then in Sierra Leone, Mustapha Bundu dreamt of becoming a professional footballer. He started playing youth football for the Craig Bellamy Academy, a foundation established in 2010, primarily to develop youth through football and other educational activities. Mustapha later moved to the United Kingdom to play for Hotspur and other lower leagues sides. In 2016, he signed for Danish Superliga club AGF, where he scored 10 goals and provided 12 assists. After multiple call-ups for the national team Leoasters, Bundu made his international debut on the 4th of September 2019 in a match against Liberia. The 20-year-old is at an important stage in his football career. He recently signed a 4-year contract with a Belgian top flight, ISH Anderlecht, which is potentially considered as a life-changing opportunity for him. African and world football stars like Mohamed Kalon and Odin Strasser have shown that it can be done, and they have become sources of inspiration to many youngsters like Mustapha Bundu. Mohamed Lamin Kamara, who is one of the newly appointed assistant coaches of the Sierra Leone national under-15 boys team, helped in shaping the skills of Mustapha Bundu. Kamara said Bundu was an excellent player of the academy and scored plenty of goals every season, which made him a threat to so many teams he was featured against.
For me, Mustapha Bundu is just so excellent, scoring over 50 goals every season. That is so great. As a coach, I think he's such a talent Sierra Leone should be hugely proud of.
Mustapha Bundu's speed, height and scoring ability gave him a competitive edge over others at the academy. Mustapha Bundu played with a pool of other youngsters at the academy. His captain at the time, Umaru Samura, who now plays for FC Johansen in the Sierra Leone Premier League, is highly impressed with Mustapha's exploits.
Mustapha Bundu is a very good boy, Yeah. In terms of football, back when we are in the academy, everybody knows Mustapha is an extremely good player. The time when we played with the midfielders, every time we assist Mustapha, just give him the ball, he can score goals. So everybody believe in Mustapha. When we went to Ireland, at that time Mustapha was sick, so he was not able to play. But we miss Mustapha at that time because we believe in him. Every time we just give him the ball. So I think he's a great player. He has worked really hard to get in there, and everybody believe in him in the academy.
For many youngsters like Mustapha, dreaming of making it big in European leagues are a must. For SLBC Sports, Abdul Kabir. That's it all for Sports Updates on News Hour. I am Abdul Kabir.
Many thanks to Abdul Kabir. Let's now find out what's happening in the world of entertainment. and welcome to Entertainment News. Not too long ago, a 14-year-old boy, Edward Zizo Johnson, was trending on social media with his rap skills. Edward Zizo Johnson is a Form 3 pupil at the Albert Academy. According to Zizo's manager, it is best for him to concentrate now on his education until he gets his Becker certificate before they could sign a proper agreement with him.
I've encouraged Edward Zizo Johnson to take his academic very seriously, which is my topmost priority. And what I did, I come in contact with his class teacher, talked to him, since he's presently at the examination class. I talked to him, enroll him to his class. Presently, like after school, he takes classes, which I've done so far.
Bo continued that the young rapper Edward Zizo Johnson's talents in rap music has attracted the likes of Chief Executive Officer of the Kabaka Multimedia Entertainment, Abubakar Toure.
We come in contact with Kabaka. We had a one-on-one chat with him, and he did not hide his admiration for the boy and how much respect he has for the boy based on his talent. Like, he asked us if we can let him mentor the boy academically and musically.
Now let's look into the trend on Big Brother Naija Season 5 lockdown show. During last Sunday's eviction, Ebuka questioned Dora on her position as Ozo's friend, and she denied having any feelings for Ozo. But let's take a look at this. Well, she asked Ozo to give her a space and doesn't want to have anything to do with him. But some fans are assuming that she is jealous of how the similar relationship between Ozo and Nenge is going. Whilst others are saying Dora is another Lekon in the house, both housemates happen to fall in love with those who prefers another person. It appears that the love triangle thing is now a common phenomenon in the house, as Prince, Tolani Bach and Wathoni are also in a slight misunderstanding. Well, that's all we have time for. I have been Cynthia Kama. Thanks for being with me. Many thanks to Cynthia Kama for the entertainment news. Well, to end news, a recap of the main points. Government has allocated over 4 billion yuans to the tourism sector as social safety net which builds support to cushion the COVID-19 impact and reduce the economic burden on workers in the tourism sector. President Biog made this announcement during the launching of the social safety net support at the Radisson Blue Mami Yoko Hotel in Freetown. BBC Media Action has informed Minister of Information and Communications about the British High Commission's support to independent media for democratic governance in Sierra Leone, and President of the Sierra Leone Association of Local Councils has called on central government to devolve powers to local councils. Joseph Munda Bindi said the devolution of powers to local authorities would be meaningless if they were devoid of functions, personnel and money to perform their functions. He was speaking during the stakeholders' engagement to commemorate this year's African Day of Decentralization and Local Development in Sierra Leone at Jalaf Venue in Aberdeen in Freetown. Well, that's all in this edition of News Hour with me, Zulaya Tuhami. Thanks for sharing your time with us. Coming up next is Good Morning Sierra Leone.